Welcome, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. Are we waiting on anybody? Anybody going live? Are all set? Yep. All right. Well, listen, my name is Joe Cressy. I'm the City Councillor in Ward 20, Trinity, Spadina, and I'm running for re-election in Spadina-Fort York. And I'm here today to proudly and officially announce my formal endorsement for Jennifer Keesmaat for mayor. And I want to say a few words about that. Let me start with the city and where we are today. In so many ways, Toronto is doing well. We've become the economic engine of this country. Here in downtown, where I represent, you only have to look up at the towers to get a sense of the level of prosperity, growth, and interest in our city. And we're on the top of many lists around livability. But then there are other lists. And if Toronto's at the top, it's for the wrong reasons. Toronto is now the inequality capital of Canada. The gap between the rich and poor is growing at a more pronounced rate in this city than any other city. 181,000 people on the waiting list for affordable housing, 8,000 people homeless every night. We lose an individual every single day to overdose. It's unacceptable. And so what kind of city do we want to build? Do we want to build a city that is livable for those who are privileged enough to be able to afford to live here, that's livable with the parks and the community centers and the 21st century transit? Well, that's the city I want to build. And do we want to build a city that actually cares for the most vulnerable, the most important thing we can do as a society? That's the city I think we should be. And so I'm endorsing Jennifer Keesmaat because I think she has the vision that this city and our residents need. A vision for a 21st century city where everybody belongs, where you can afford to live here, a city where you can get around on transit, a city that's actually safe and invests in its young people. You know, we're entering the 21st century and we're becoming a global city, but the question is, do we have the vision to truly seize that opportunity for all? I think Jennifer Keesmaat has that vision, and it's why I'm so damn glad to be voting for her in this election, and I look forward to her becoming mayor on October the 22nd. I'd like to introduce Jennifer Keesmaat.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Joe. One of the wonderful things about this moment in history is that we can redefine politics. We can ensure that our politics are driven by a vision and by our values, the kind of place that we want to become. And I will be thrilled as mayor to be working very closely with a man who has demonstrated over his political career so far that he is driven by vision and values and cares deeply about everyone in this city, and will always work to ensure that Toronto is an inclusive city for everyone. I'm also here today to lay out an action plan to deliver on key priorities in my first 100 days in office as the City of Toronto's mayor. We know that in order to get things done, we need a clear vision, we need a practical strategy, and we also need the knowledge around how to execute that plan. And that's why I'm bringing forward a plan that is all about what will happen under my mayoralty in the first 100 days. The first is this: I will assign a full-time, dedicated team to fast-track work on the Relief subway line. No more messing around. We're already behind. This team will report directly to me. The buck stops with the mayor. The mayor needs to be accountable for what happens in this city. We will immediately begin property acquisition for station locations, coordination of utility relocations, and we will secure partners for construction work while simultaneously completing the necessary design work. That's number one. The next thing I will do within the first 100 days of office is start work on tearing down the Gardner east of Jarvis. The city will finalize the planning and design work for the construction of a grand boulevard and negotiate the necessary contracts to get shovels in the ground, unlocking 12 acres of land on our waterfront and saving $500 million from Mr. Tory's plan. The third thing that I will do in my first 100 days of office is start building 100,000 purpose-built rental homes that we so desperately need in this city. The city will assemble a first bundle of city-owned lands and put them out to tender to housing developers in order to get thousands of new homes in the construction pipeline. This is what industry has told us. We need more supply, and we need to use our land to secure that housing at an affordable rent. I will also get rent to own underway within my first 100 days in office. The city will formally request provincial amendments to property tax legislation to allow for a surtax on luxury homes worth more than $4 million, to secure a revenue stream to fund a program that will help young families make the leap from renting to home ownership in our city. Also, in my first 100 days of office, I will make safe street improvements with reduced speeds and design improvements. We will immediately reduce the speeds on residential streets to 30 kilometers an hour, identify the city's most 100 dangerous intersections, and begin design assessment of school zones to ensure that every school zone in this city is safe by design. I will also, within my first 100 days of office, bring gender fairness to City Hall. The city will amend the rules governing citizen appointments for agencies, boards, and commissions to ensure gender parity within 2 years, to get more women in leadership roles in our city. We need to get right to work. And that's why I've laid out a plan for the first 100 days. Under Mr. Tory's leadership, the first City Council meeting was a symbolic one of shaking hands and taking photos. My first City Council meeting will have an agenda with these items that I have outlined, and we will begin advancing the critical, important, and necessary work, rolling up our sleeves, and just getting it done. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
So what are you planning to do to get people out to vote?
Well, we are running a grassroots campaign, and one of the things that is an essential part of this campaign is getting out and meeting with as many residents in this city as possible and getting the vision for a city that is inclusive and provides housing for everyone, and where we're continuously building a transit network. And that vision will motivate Torontonians to vote.
Why do you think you're going to be more effective in getting the fast-track relief line in place than Mayor Tory?
Well, the first step towards getting anything done is ensuring that you have a clear plan and you have accountability. Mr. Tory has had neither of those things. The relief line has not been his priority. It was, in fact, unfortunately, Smart Track. I have made it clear that it is the #1 transit priority in this city, and I've outlined that I will put in place a full-time, dedicated team that will fast-track work on the relief line. Instead of having a whole series of tasks that are undertaken one after the other, I'm folding up many of those tasks from a project management perspective in order to deliver the relief line 3 years earlier. The champion for the relief line must be a mayor who prioritizes the relief line, and that's what I'm committed to do. The current proposal that Mr. Tory concocted is to not only tear down the Gardiner Expressway, but then to move it over a little bit and rebuild this concrete infrastructure in the sky. We know that cities around the world are no longer doing this for a variety of reasons, including the fact that it's incredibly costly to build infrastructure high up in the sky, and it also wastes a tremendous amount of land. So my plan is to tear down the Gardiner Expressway east of Jarvis and to build a grand boulevard that will have the same traffic capacity. So the connection to the Don Valley will be maintained. It will have the same traffic capacity, but since we're not rebuilding in the sky, it's much less expensive. It also unlocks 12 precious acres of waterfront land where we can build a new community with commercial, retail, and places for people to live right on our waterfront. My plan is can be delivered on a much shorter timeline than Mr. Tory's plan, precisely because he's proposing to tear it down and then to rebuild an expressway in the sky. And my plan is about tearing it down and building out an at-grade boulevard. So it's a much, much shorter timeline.
Is that different than the Lakeshore now? Is it a different road? You're calling it the Grand Boulevard. It sounds like it's Lakeshore.
It is a different road, in part because Lakeshore still functions as a highway in most of its parts. It will be a green boulevard where we have trees and wide sidewalks, and where it has been designed to integrate into the fabric of the adjacent new blocks, the new development blocks that will be created. So yes, it's a completely redesigned boulevard.
What about the environmental aspect of the plan? The plan that's currently been pursued by council was regarded as the most environmentally the better option. Can you speak to the environmental components of your plan?
With respect to the Gardner Expressway, actually that's incorrect. The plan, the Grand Boulevard plan, scores the highest with respect to environmental sustainability. It's one of the reasons why it was the preferred option of Waterfront Toronto, as well as city planning and city engineering staff. It scored the highest in every category: the cost-benefit analysis, urban design, in terms of building green infrastructure, unlocking land and value. The Grand Boulevard scored the highest in every single category. And importantly, the business case analysis recommended the Grand Boulevard as well.
Per hour residential streets, so you're planning on rolling out 30 kilometer per hour restrictions on every street across the city?
On every residential street in the city. And this is to ensure, in particular, that senior citizens and young children are safe in their neighborhoods. Right now, we have an incredibly dangerous situation in our city on our neighborhood streets. We have an outrageous crisis around pedestrian deaths and also cycling safety. And this is something that we should not be dithering and delaying and pontificating about. We need to make the changes that we know will create safe streets for every single resident in the city. That needs to be our primary priority. And we know that by doing this, we will make our city and our streets more age-friendly. A disproportionate number of senior citizens are currently not only hit, but also killed by fast-moving vehicles in this city. By slowing down the speeds, we give both the driver and the pedestrian more response time, and the data has demonstrated very clearly that we will create a safer city. It's been too long, we've waited too long to take this seriously and to implement the measures that will make our city safe for absolutely everyone. There's no reason, other than a lack of leadership, that we haven't gotten this done, and I'm committed to doing it within my first 100 days.
What's the projected cost on that? Because that's a lot of streets where we have to be changing signs like a lot.
The changing signs is a relatively small price to pay for saving lives in our city. If we look at the cost of emergency response when a tragedy takes place and an ambulance must be called, let alone the social cost to neighborhoods and families who lose children and parents and aunts and uncles ahead of their time due to a preventable death, it's a very small cost to pay as a society to put a policy in place that will make our streets safer. So if we want to take a crass look at this and look at it from a cost-benefit analysis, the cost of a tragedy is much, much higher just in hard, real dollars than changing the signage in our city and slowing down traffic in order to make our streets safe.
I've been a reporter in Toronto for 18 years. 99% of the time when I'm going to cover hit and runs, they're on major thoroughfares. They're on the big streets. They're not on the residential side streets. So when you're talking about elderly people crossing, it's often the big, 4-lane streets that they're crossing and they can't get across in time. So can you talk to us about that? I mean, is that going to really make that much of a difference to change the speed on residential streets?
Yes, it's a part of a larger plan. It's one component. There's no secret bullet. There's no one thing that will transform our city, but creating a culture where we expect people to be walking and pedestrians to be crossing and making that the priority in terms of safety is a key starting point. The next part of my plan gets precisely at the point that you're raising, which is the 100 most dangerous intersections in this city. I will identify within my first 100 days, and we will redesign those intersections to make them safe. This is really important. Vision Zero is about recognizing that we can have 0 pedestrian deaths in our city by design, that pedestrian deaths and cycling deaths are preventable. And it's been implemented with great success in cities around the world, and yet we've been dragging our feet like it's not a priority. My plan is about redesigning streets, the most dangerous intersections, in school zones, ensuring that we are preventing those deaths which are preventable. This should be a starting point for us as a city. No one should die unnecessarily on our city streets because we haven't designed the street in a way to make sure that everyone is safe. So this is an incredible opportunity. The good news is we know exactly what to do because it's been done elsewhere in the world.
What do you think of John Tory taking a position to endorse certain people? Do you have any plans to endorse candidates?
Well, he's welcome to endorse whoever he would like, of course, and I absolutely will be talking about candidates that I want to work very closely with, and my friend here, Joe Cressy, is a councillor that I cannot wait to be working with as mayor.
Anyone else?
Sorry?
Anyone else?
I will be talking more about that in the upcoming days.
What power do you feel it is having an incumbent endorse you? How powerful, how much weight would that be, do you feel?
The residents of the city of Toronto will decide who they want to be their councillor and who they want to be their mayor. And it is the weight is on any candidate who's running to clearly articulate a vision and the values that they will bring to office. And I believe that when we make those opportunities, when we make it very clear what the difference is between candidates, that the residents will choose the people who they best feel prevents a positive, hopeful, optimistic vision for the future of the city. Because that's what I've seen on the campaign trail, that Torontonians are hopeful about the future. They're optimistic. Torontonians across this entire city want a city that is for absolutely everyone. And we're not seeing that today. As Joe Cressy outlined earlier in his comments, our city has become the most expensive in which to rent in this country. That's not who we are as a city. We've always been a place that is about ensuring that everyone has access to excellent housing. That's not happening today, and that's something that we can fix. And when residents see that there are candidates and a mayor with a plan to deliver on that, I'm confident that that will be very appealing to them.
We have time for two more.
Would you consider Toronto's transit world-class? I'm sure you've seen the maps of London subway, New York subway, Tokyo subway. I mean, our stinking two little lines is a world-class embarrassment. How do you change that?
I have put forward a transit network plan that is about doing exactly that. It's about getting away from this drawing up plans on the back of a napkin like Mr. Tory did with Smart Track, and instead, it is about building out a transit system that provides excellent access to every corner of this city, from everywhere to everywhere, with subways, LRTs, an enhanced and improved streetcar network and bus network. It is about ensuring that we are no longer dithering and delaying when we can, in fact, use the expertise that we have in this city to deliver an excellent transit city. Look, we are way behind on transit. We used to be a leader. 30 years ago, we were a leader in transit. We created an integrated transit network where you can get from a bus to a subway to a streetcar, and we were leaders. And today, we have fallen woefully behind. And as a result, over the course of the past 4 years, we have had the unenviable title of becoming the city in North America with the longest commutes. Not only is this an incredible quality of life problem, this is an environmental problem. It's also a problem with respect to business development in this city. The Board of Trade has identified that our long commute is an incredible drain on productivity and is a disincentive to business growth in our city. So my transit network plan is about advancing and building continuously excellent transit. It's based on models that have been used in other places of the world, where we don't just build out one line, but we build out multiple lines on an ongoing basis, and we simply never stop building transit. But you have to build the right thing, and that's why I have a real transit plan to build out the real infrastructure we need.
When would we see shovels in the ground for something like that with a relief line?
So my plan will, for the relief line, we'll get shovels in the ground 3 years earlier than the current plan. The current plan has the relief line completed in 2031. My plan will have the relief line completed in 2028. So it would be within the next four years we would have shovels in the ground. Thank you very much.